In the movie Dracula, a Dracula is awakened after over a century when thieves steal a coffin from a museum. As he returns to life, Van Helsing, who has been keeping himself alive using Dracula's blood, tries to stop him. But Dracula has a deeper connection to Van Helsing's daughter, Mary, who begins having strange dreams. Keep watching to know if the vampire can be stopped before anything bad happens. The movie starts in 1897 with the ship Demeter traveling from Russia to England. When they arrive at the port, all the crew members have had their blood drained, and the captain is tied to the wheel of the ship. The only one left alive is Dracula, who leaves the ship without being noticed. He stays hidden until the usual Dracula events happen, where Van Helsing turns him to ashes. But unlike before, Dracula, the undead son of the dragon, keeps coming back to life. Van Helsing decides the best way to stop Dracula is to lock him inside a steel coffin under his feeding grounds at Carfax Abbey. More than 100 years later, the Abbey has become a museum, still run by the same Van Helsing, now calling himself Matthew to hide his real identity. He uses Dracula's blood, taken with leeches, to keep himself from dying. Most people believe the story of Dracula is just a made-up tale by Bram Stoker. Even Matthew's apprentice Simon thinks the story is fake. Simon brings Matthew a 15th century crossbow for the museum's collection. Meanwhile, Matthew's assistant, Selina, finishes her work and turns down Simon's interest in her. But secretly, she is working with a group of robbers led by Marcus, planning to steal from the museum. One of the thieves, Trick, dressed as a police officer, helps the group get inside. They knock out the guards and plan to steal something valuable from the museum's safe. To open the safe, they need Abe's handprint, eye scan, and voice recording. Selina tells Marcus the item inside must be very valuable because of how much it's protected. The group ignores the vampire skulls in the room and goes down to a chamber where they find a coffin. They argue about what to do next. Marcus thinks the coffin is just there to scare them, and that the real treasure must be inside. Eddie doesn't want to go any further, but Marcus tells him to move the coffin anyway. They activated a pressure plate, causing silver spikes to shoot out and impale Drake, meant to stop him if he woke up. As they backed up, the second defense system killed Dax, whose only job was to freeze the lock. The team then tried to figure out how to escape, coming up with the plan for Nightshade to blow a hole to reach the river. Under Selina's orders, they decided to take the coffin too, thinking something valuable might be hidden inside. Meanwhile, Van Helsing heard the alarm and grabbed an old flintlock loaded with silver bullets. When he arrived, he saw the thieves had already escaped with the coffin and left behind their dead. The thieves transported the coffin by plane to America, and Nightshade was tasked with getting inside. Angry about leaving with nothing, he cut himself out of frustration. His blood woke the sleeping vampire, giving Dracula enough power to control Nightshade with a mist. Dracula led him to his body, which was covered in leeches that kept him weak. After briefly getting a leech on his eye, Nightshade found what he was after, a silver crucifix with rubies. But then Dracula rose and the mask was off. The next thief to die was Trick, who discovered Nightshade dead and Dracula walking around. With his strength returning, Dracula regained his youth and used his power to seduce Selina, which worked. Marcus, in a panic, fired his gun at Dracula, but the bullets had no effect. Their pilot Charlie struggled to keep control of the plane as the cabin pressure changed and a dark storm approached. Dracula killed Marcus by ripping out his throat. Meanwhile, the scene shifted to a woman named Mary in New Orleans. Mary had been having bad dreams over and over, and one night she saw a vision of Dracula on the plane. She thought it was just another nightmare, but then she saw him standing in her bedroom. Dracula noticed her scent, but when Mary pulled away, the vision disappeared. Her best friend and roommate Lucy arrived, snapping her out of it. Later, Mary told Father David, her priest, about the bad dreams. She thought they might be connected to her mother, who had recently passed away, or maybe to her father, whom she had never met. Meanwhile, back in England, Simon showed up to work and found the place a mess. Matthew, or Van Helsing, was getting ready to leave. Simon begged him to explain what was happening, but Van Helsing didn't tell him and left for America on a plane. When Van Helsing landed in the US, he looked sickly without his leeches. He saw a news report from Valerie about a private plane that had crashed. Just like the captain of the Demeter, Charlie's body was tied to the pilot's seat, and Dracula's coffin was found beside him. Van Helsing headed to New Orleans to hunt Dracula, not knowing that Simon was following him. At the crash site, Valerie was doing late-night coverage with her cameraman, JT. Dracula attacked, and JT couldn't see him through the camera until he used his own eyes. He was killed, and Valerie ran to her van, only to see JT's death on all the monitors. Dracula made her his second bride, along with Selena, who was with her accomplices at the town hall. Van Helsing arrived at the hall with his silver stake launcher, but some of the body bags were already empty. Simon confronted Van Helsing and stopped him from killing Selena, not knowing she was a vampire. This allowed her to escape. Nightshade attacked, but Van Helsing quickly took him down, and Simon didn't argue this time. Van Helsing left Simon to watch over the body and went upstairs with his flintlock to look for Selena. But Simon got distracted, and Nightshade came back to life because the stake had missed his heart. Just before Nightshade could kill him, Simon used the automatic stake launcher and made sure it hit the heart this time. After killing his first vampire, Simon decided he was ready to hunt the others. However, Marcus came back as an undead, and Simon only managed to stab him in the eye with a crucifix knife before Marcus got away. Van Helsing was about to finish off Selena when Trick attacked him from behind. The hunter quickly killed Trick, blowing off his head and pinned Selena to the wall when she tried to attack Simon. Despite everything, Simon couldn't bring himself to cut off his co-worker's head, so he and Van Helsing escaped before the police arrived. Afterward, Van Helsing explained everything to Simon, revealing that he was really Abraham Van Helsing. He had trapped Dracula back in 1897 by using the vampire's lack of reflection against him. Van Helsing accidentally discovered the power of vampire blood during a fight, and that's how he stayed alive for so long. But it also gave Dracula a strange connection to his daughter, Mary. Dracula couldn't be killed like other vampires and was repelled by anything Christian. Meanwhile, Mary was at the church with Father David, while Mardi Gras celebrations went on outside. She told the priest about feeling like someone was trying to take her soul. Then when Dracula appeared to her in the form of the priest, confirming her fears, she ran from the church in terror. Meanwhile, Dracula's followers roamed through the Mardi Gras crowds in town, startled only by the sound of falling change. The first of his brides was at the police station undergoing a psych evaluation when Dracula arrived. The two vampires attacked and fed on the doctor and officer. Dracula later went to the music store where Mary worked, recognizing Lucy from when she disturbed his vision. Mary wasn't there, so Lucy brought Dracula home, inviting him inside. She shared how Mary's mother was deeply religious and raised her to fear God. Lucy quickly fell under Dracula's spell, becoming his third bride, engaging in a strange levitating moment, which Mary sensed from afar. Mary, worried about her friend, went to her workplace and ran into Simon, who had come alone while Van Helsing was at her house. Simon explained he was with her father, but Mary didn't want to hear anything about him since he had abandoned her mother. While she wasn't there to see it, Simon was attacked by Marcus, disguised as a homeless man. Marcus had a missing eye and quickly learned he couldn't touch silver anymore. Simon managed to stab him with a silver blade and cut off his head. At the same time, Van Helsing reached Mary's house but was tricked by his reflection and captured by Dracula. The vampire blamed him for stealing his blood and claimed Mary as his since her father's blood flowed through her veins. Mary got a strange call from Lucy, who said she was with Mary's father. When Mary went upstairs, she found him dead with a pole through his neck. Lucy then fully transformed into a vampire, and the house turned into a nightmare as Dracula's three brides tormented Mary. Dracula appeared to claim his blood, turning into a wolf and chasing Mary outside. She ran into Simon, who shot Dracula with a stake, causing him to disappear into a swarm of bats. The two escaped, with Simon realizing Van Helsing was dead, and Mary learning her mother had kept her father away after discovering his addiction to leeching Dracula's blood. They needed a safe place, so they decided to stay at Father David's church, hoping it would protect them through the night. Simon explained that Van Helsing saved him when he was in a bad situation, and now he felt he owed it to protect Mary. In the church library, they searched for answers about Dracula, trying to find a way to defeat him. They couldn't find anything in the Christian books that explained Dracula's weakness to silver. Mary translated some Hebrew written in Van Helsing's blood, which said, "Believe in me, for I am the way to eternity." Suddenly, Dracula appeared. Simon grabbed a Bible, letting Mary escape to the graveyard. The Bible didn't bother Dracula until the pages touched his skin and caught fire. Dracula found Mary before Simon could help, explaining that he had spent centuries searching for someone who wasn't bitten, but born with his curse. He grabbed Mary and took her to a nearby church rooftop. Dracula gave Mary a taste of his power and showed her his past. He revealed that he was Judas Iscariot, the one who betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. After trying to hang himself for his sin, the rope broke, and God punished him with eternal life and a hatred for Christian relics and silver. Judas wished for death but now wanted to reshape the world in defiance of God. While this happened, Simon saw Selena feeding on Mardi Gras parties and followed her to the church. Inside, all three brides tried to seduce Simon, but he broke a wooden cross and staked Valerie. As she died, Simon was captured by the other two brides, who held him for Dracula. Dracula wanted Mary to make her first kill by biting Simon, but instead she tricked Dracula by pretending to bite him and using her own blood. She asked for Simon's head as a prize, pulling out a silver knife. When Lucy noticed no bite marks, Mary beheaded her and staked Drake. Dracula wasn't surprised by the betrayal and attacked Mary on the rooftop, telling her betrayal was something he knew well. Mary's new vampire powers protected her, but Simon was thrown out a window. He grabbed some garden shears and cut off Selena's head. Dracula caught them and threw Selena's head back at Simon, but Mary took the chance to wrap an electrical cord around Dracula's neck. She jumped off the roof, trying to finish what he started 2,000 years ago. Dracula couldn't hold on to Mary, and she fell, but survived. Dracula then released her from the vampire curse with just a few words. This time the noose didn't break, and Judas died in front of the sunrise, turning to ashes. Later, Simon and Mary ran the museum together, and Mary, now the new Van Helsing, took on her father's role of keeping Dracula's ashes sealed in his coffin. And that's how the movie ended.